We've all seen those jets streaking across the sky, but what we don't see is the invisible lifeline that keeps them up there. Today, we're diving into the high stakes, high altitude ballet that's absolutely essential to modern air power. It's the secret that lets jets cross oceans, stay in a fight for hours on end, and even save a pilot's life when everything else has gone wrong. It's a lifeline delivered in midair.
Just listen to this. It puts you right there in the moment. Now picture this. You're a pilot. You're hundreds of miles from home base. Your jet is bleeding fuel from battle damage. The gauges are dropping. Fast. Without some kind of miracle, you and your multi-million-dollar aircraft are going down. This isn't a Hollywood script. It's the reality behind that quote, and it perfectly sets the stage for what we're about to get into.
So that's the big question, right? What do? You're thousands of feet in the air. You're flying hundreds of miles an hour. How do you possibly solve the most basic problem of them all? Running out of gas. Well, the answer is one of the most incredible feats of aerial coordination you can possibly imagine. And that answer, that lifeline, it's a technology that completely rewrote the rules of aviation. It's called aerial refueling.
No, the simplest way to think about it is like a flying gas station. The concept sounds straightforward enough. One plane passes gas to another one while they're both flying. But let me tell you, this simple idea is what military strategists call a massive force multiplier. It's what lets aircraft extend their range, stay on a mission for way longer, and pull off objectives that would otherwise be totally impossible.
Of course, a capability this incredible didn't just appear overnight. Nope. It was built on a long history of some pretty daring experiments and huge technological leaps that started almost 100 years ago.
It all started with some unbelievably risky stuff back in the 1920s. We're talking guys in biplanes dangling gravity-fed hoses to each other. But the real revolution came in the jet age. See, there was a big problem. The old propeller-driven tankers just couldn't keep up with the new jets. That all changed in 1956 with the KC-135 Stratotanker. It was a jet tanker for jet fighters. Boom, problem solved. From there, aerial refueling went from a wild stunt to a routine operation, proven on a massive scale in places like Desert Storm. And today? Well, today we're on the verge of the next giant leap, autonomous drone tankers.
Okay, so how do they actually do it? How do you pass fuel between two planes screaming through the sky? Well, there are two main ways to get it done, and the choice between them often comes down to who you are and what you're flying.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it's not just about technology. It's almost like two different philosophies. The U.S. Air Force, for the most part, loves the flying boom. Think of it as a rigid, steerable tube that an operator in the tanker literally flies into the receiving jet. It pumps fuel super fast, which is perfect for huge aircraft like bombers. The receiving pilot's job? Just fly straight and steady. But the U.S. Navy and most of our allies prefer the probe and drogue. With this one, the tanker trails a flexible hose with a little basket on the end, and it's the receiving pilot's job to fly their probe right into it. It's slower, but it's really versatile. Let's just zoom in on that boom method for a second, because the crews call it an aerial ballet for a reason. First, the receiving pilot has to maneuver their jet into this tiny, precise pocket of air behind the tanker. From there, a boom operator, often lying on their stomach in the back of the tanker, takes over. Using a control stick, they literally fly the boom to connect with the other plane. Once they're hooked up, fuel starts gushing. It is just an incredible display of teamwork between two different crews in two different jets, all moving at about 500 miles an hour. And this quote right here, it gets to the heart of it. We're not talking about some clumsy, slow-moving piece of equipment. Modern booms are so precise, so responsive, they feel like an extension of the operator's own body. As they put it, you move your arm, the boom moves. And that's exactly the kind of control you need when your target is another jet screaming through the sky. Okay, so we've seen how it works. It's awesome technology. But so what? Why is this so incredibly important? Well, the ability to refuel in midair isn't just a convenience. It is a fundamental pillar of modern military strategy. To get a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, just look at this number. 700 million pounds of fuel. That wasn't over a decade. That was just for a single military campaign, Operation Desert Storm. It gives you a sense of just how routine and how absolutely critical this whole thing has become. So what does this capability actually get you strategically? Well, first off, it buys you global reach. Instead of taking weeks to ship a fighter overseas on a boat, you can fly it pretty much anywhere in the world in just a matter of hours.
Second, you get extended loiter time. That means a jet can stay over a target providing support for hours instead of just minutes. Third, and this is clever, you get an increased payload. You can take off with less fuel and more weapons because you know a flying gas station is waiting for you up there. You put all of that together and you get that force multiplier effect we talked about. One tanker makes an entire fleet of other jets exponentially more powerful. And here is the absolute perfect example. A B-2 stealth bomber can take off from its home base in Missouri, fly a mission that lasts more than 30 hours to a target halfway around the world, and then fly all the way back home without ever touching the ground. The only way that's possible is because of a pre-planned chain of tankers just waiting along its route. That is what true global reach looks like. So what's next for this incredible technology? Well, like with so many other things these days, the future is looking more and more automated. The next massive leap is all about automation, making this already incredible but dangerous process even safer and more precise. The first major step is the Navy's MQ-25 Stingray. It's an unmanned drone tanker. Just think about that for a second. A robot refueling a jet with a human pilot operating off an aircraft carrier without ever putting a tanker crew in harm's way. But that's just the beginning. The ultimate goal is to have combat drones refuel other combat drones. And that opens up the possibility of missions that last not just for hours, but for days, or maybe even weeks on end. And that leads us to a final, really profound question. For its entire history, aviation has been chained to the ground by the simple limit of its fuel tank. Aerial refueling stretched that chain. But autonomous refueling, it might just break that chain entirely. So we have to ask ourselves, what happens to warfare when the machines never need to land? It's a question that is going to redefine the future of the skies.